Welcome back to TWC Home Improvements, episode 6 of the podcast. And we're going to be looking at living spaces this time. And it's going to include everything from the decision-making process, buying it, planning it, delivery, aftercare, all of the bits and pieces. Some of it which can seem confusing, maybe even overwhelming, and it doesn't need to be. Delighted to be back here, setting the world to right with the guys that know all about this. Obviously, Andy and Bearded Joe.
Yes.
Happy New Year.
It's back. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, well,
less offensive now.
November was a real success for me.
Brilliant.
Raised £645 for Men's Health, so
I'd
I'll take that as a win.
I've actually offered to pay more than that next year for him just to keep his beard.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of scared children and customers that coming into the showroom with this just fresh-faced, white-faced Joe. So,
well, if anybody saw episode 5, they'll have seen that Tom, my editor, even put the Shermanator in on the video when we were chatting to
you
him.
did.
A couple more chins in the show. It's the only low point for me. But
the video adds £10, mate. It's fine. It's not a problem. It's not a problem.
Well, only his mum watched it. And she loves the face regardless.
Absolutely. But living spaces. Now, I mean, we're talking
Conservatories, orangeries, extensions. I think
bars. As we got,
bars,
you know, I'm obsessed with that.
Add an extra room onto your property, and we're in the business, so we know how confusing this process can be. I mean, even to the point of the way they're advertised, and sometimes I don't even know what the difference between a conservatory, an orangery, a garden room, an extension. There's so much that kind of thing out there out there in the world that it's difficult to nail down exactly what everyone wants. So this is just an idea to debunk it and show everyone how simple the process actually is.
And that's where the term living space kind of came about, really, because, you know, a lot of customers, as you said, it can be daunting. You know, where do I begin? Do I need planning permission? What do I want? Do I want some people call it a summer house, a garden room, you know, an extension, whatever it might, man cave, you know, whatever
Dining
it might be.
room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the idea came about that we do every element of that. So actually a living space, because that's what it is. It's essentially a room on the back of your house with a varying amount of brickwork, a varying amount of glass, and a different type of roof.
Yes.
And we do everything in between. So that's kind of where the term living space, but most people would call them probably conservatories more than anything else.
I think probably extension now, really.
Yeah,
I mean, conservatory, what is a conservatory? What is an orangery?
Like, if I think, like, going back quite a lot of years now, and it would just be glass, wouldn't it, with the frames, and then it would be this lean-to plastic corrugated roof,
like a greenhouse,
that's or the noisiest room when it rained and all of that sort of stuff, and then you had to clean it every X number of months because of the moss that would be on it. Yeah. It's not like that anymore. It's a different gravy. I mean, these are heated rooms. These are
lots of people still do have those, though. You know, and there was quite a big article that came out last year. I won't name the paper because obviously I wouldn't read that paper, but and they basically talked about the fact that actually conservatories, a classic conservatory, which you just described, which a lot of people still have, actually can devalue the property.
Wow.
And they had estate agents go around and talk about the fact, because people walking around, they look at it and think, well, I'm going to have to spend a small fortune replacing it. So that's, I think, where Andy says extensions, the majority of what we now do are extensions because they're extending the property.
And that is absolutely right, and I understand that, and it makes sense. I mean, this that we're sat here now, I mean, it is an extension. This is an orangery, isn't it?
No, this is just an extension.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
okay.
Orangery is a sort of term that's kind of been really made up by national companies.
Right.
It's a conservatory with some brickwork in it.
Fine.
So it's that sort of type of thing. We just call it living spaces. If you're extending your house, whether you want a glass roof, a tiled roof, a flat roof, a solid roof, an aluminium roof, whatever that is, it just comes under the term of an extension for us, living space.
But that sort of, even that extension bit makes you automatically think, right, building regs and planning permission, upset neighbours, whatever. But it's like, no, it doesn't. There is some processes, and we're going to go through those in a second, but they're not as complicated as you might think.
No, I think most people will think of a design they want in their property. They'll see it from Instagram or social media or on the telly or whatever. And then they sort of plan out, well, how are we going to deliver this? What are we going to do? And sort of our job is to make that seamless and simple and as easy as we possibly can, as we'll go through today.
Well, absolutely. And so presumably, the first thing is that you kind of have design decisions to be made.
Yes.
And what I love about this is that you've got several examples here that you can come and see. Presumably there's even more.
Yeah.
But what you then do is they're then made to measure for the space that you've got.
Yeah. So, you know, within our showroom that we've got here in Swindon, there's 5 conservatory rooms, where extension rooms, living space rooms, whatever it may be. That could give you a general idea. Obviously, there's every single one can come in a different shape, size, tile, glass. There's so many different options. The options are endless, and the idea, if you're at a point where we do want to extend, I'd always recommend going to a showroom to have a look. You know, you wouldn't buy a car generally without test driving it. And some of these extensions cost more than cars. So, you know, come in, have a look, go through the designs and really get a feel for what you want.
Yeah.
You'll often go out to give a quote or a design to somebody, and you get there and they'll have an idea of what they think they want. Then when you bring them back to the showroom, that design, what they think they had and what they end up having is so different. So step one really is go to a showroom.
Exactly, because you've got the design element. You've also got the size element as well. As you know, some people have houses are completely different shapes and sizes, or gardens are completely different shapes and sizes. And often people have got an idea in their mind, but it's how do we get that idea out of their mind onto either a piece of paper or a 3D CAD drawing.
Yes.
And so actually the beauty of coming into the showroom is okay, I don't want a glass roof, I do want a solid roof, whatever that might be, but actually how big do I want it? So as you quite rightly said, you walk in here, how big is 5x4? 5x4 written on a screen, well, what is that? Can I fit my table in it? You know, if I have the grandparents round, can I get it in a dining room table? That sort of thing is important.
And also, you know, you make a really good point with the size. I remember a customer that we did a job for in Cirencester. She sort of measured out on the floor how big this extension was going to be. And being honest, stood inside of her rope line, as it were. It looked tiny. It looked so small. And she was like, I need to go a lot bigger. I need to go a lot bigger. And she came to the showroom, and funnily enough, it was going to be the same size as this room. And this room was a really nice big size.
Yeah.
So I brought her to the showroom, and it sort of opened up her eyes to how big it is, because actually when you draw something on the floor, you don't get the feel for how big it is. It's just a rope line. It looked tiny, and it did look small. When I brought it into the room, it was like, and it's actually, if I remember rightly, she went around 200 mil smaller than this room.
Really?
Like she didn't actually need as big as this. So seeing a design in place is so important. And we won't have everything that everybody wants in the showroom. You know, you can't possibly do that, but it gives you a really good feel for size and type of roof. Each roof type that we fit and install is in here. So you've got your glass, the living roof, the tiled roof, the flat roof lantern, so they're all in situ.
And does that come down to a personal preference only, or is there instances where your expertise, you'll go, oh, now I'm understanding what you want it for, or the surrounding area, or your garden, or whatever it might be, that you'll go, I think you might be better off looking at this. Is there guidance that can be given?
Definitely. So I think there's a few points that we listen to when designing and helping, because some customers don't have any idea what they want.
Absolutely.
So it's identify what the room's going to be used for, identify how often they're going to be using it and how much space and time they're going to be spending in there. And then also identifying the budget, because with conservatories and extensions and living spaces, you can design the grand design that you've seen on the telly, which costs a certain amount. You can then have a really basic, you know, space out there, and the price difference between those two are absolutely massive. And what we try and do when we go out to design at a customer's house or in the showroom is we start off designing what they want, and then if the budget isn't there to do that, then you can always take things off. You know, instead of having bifolding doors, you can have French doors. Instead of having aluminium windows or flush fit windows, you can have standard casement. Instead of having a flat roof lantern, which has got loads of lights in it and plastering and extra work, you can have just a glass roof. And so the idea is to take them on a journey, and quite quickly and easily, but on a journey to work out what it is they can have.
And there might be certain things that they would really like, and that's a deal breaker. Well, no, we've got to have this. There might be other things. Well, look, in an ideal world, if I wasn't paying for it, this is what I'd have. As I'm paying for it, this is what I'm going to have. You know,
Absolutely.
But we're realistic about that, and I think, as you said, in terms of that stage, we always recommend people to come down to the showroom. walk in them, look at them, you know, as a starting block.
Yeah.
But then obviously when our guy goes round, he's not a salesman, he's a designer.
Yeah.
And they'll come out, and obviously they've done this a lot. So they've seen certain things that work in particular spaces.
Yeah.
On, you know, a lot of houses, you said earlier when we were talking to someone about, most houses at the back of the houses are quite similar to lots of other houses that are out there in the area.
Yeah.
So we've done certain things that look great.
Yeah.
You know, well, have you thought about
done
this?
one there already? Yeah. And presumably even things like which direction the back garden's facing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could have an impact in what's the right thing to go, i.e. does it catch a lot of sun?
Yeah.
Et cetera, et cetera. And you know, you're and forgive me, I'm openly in this learning from you guys from all of this. I'm not the experts like you are. So if I ask or say daft things, it's not the first or the last.
You've never asked anything daft.
But it's no longer sort of like just a glazer anymore, is it? I mean, you just mentioned about the plastering and the electrics and everything that goes into it now.
Of course, you can have the basic conservatory where it's, you know, a base in there which still has to be built to regulations.
So they are still available.
Yeah, you can have
still
glass.
Popular.
Very popular.
Yeah.
Very modern as well. And people have started to go back to a floor-to-ceiling frame where it's glass. They want to have a sun garden room. They want to sit in there. They want to entertain. You've got the stars and stuff in the evening. You can have a little pelmet around them. There's so many options with that. But of course, that's a very basic idea and a very basic, easy design to do. And then you, of course, have got something like this where you're discussing electrics, plumbing, brickwork, cavities, building regulations. Yeah. So there's a whole spectrum of, you know, from bottom to top of what you can.
Because you then get sparkies involved.
We use all of our own boys, yeah. So
really,
we've got partnerships with tradesmen. So yeah, we use all of our own tradesmen. So.
I think the fear as well, because like you said, it can be a bit daunting. You know, do I have to sort a load of planning permission out? Do I need to project manage this whole thing and organise all these trades and stuff like that? You know, or can I find someone that does all that for me? You know, do I have to get architects involved? Or, you know, but the big thing is we can do anything. We can do whatever you want, as Andy said, from a 3x3 floor to ceiling frames, polycarbonate roof. You know, all in white PVC. That would be one end of the scale. Yeah. The other would be, you know, what was that one you were talking about the other day that's 13x8 or something like that, you know, and everything in between, you know. So what our designers are supposed to do when they go round, which they're very good at, and sometimes, you know, they might not saying they get it right every time, first time. It might be a couple of designs till we get there. But what they're good at is listening to the customer and not saying, oh, well, this is what you need. You know, people maybe fear that they're going to come round and they're going to put bells and whistles on it, and we don't want that. But what they'll try and do is design what the customer is after and what they're going to use. Because otherwise, there's no point. And just waste of everyone's time.
And with the design process, what we've worked really hard with, and we've got great partners with Ultraframe and Roof Right and Conservatory Outlet. So we're very fortunate that we've got these contacts. But we've got a way of designing with the computer system, with having the CAD system, where you can design it with the customer. So if we come out to do a quote or a design, however you want to sort of word that, we'll come to the customer's house, we'll talk to you. You hopefully would have seen the showroom. We then sit with you with the computer and we design it as we build it. So every brick, all the windows, how big the roof is, everything, we design it on the computer in front of you. And it gives you a real good opportunity to go, oh, I don't like that. Yeah. Can you make that smaller? I'm dealing with a customer at the moment, I won't name, but I'm going to tell her that I've referenced it so she watches this. Where she is actually lovely, but she has actually changed her design many times, as she is aware. Hi, Sam. And she
careful. The podcast is only a certain level of time.
Yeah, sorry. And she's measured up furniture, and I'm changing windowsill heights in order to make sure that a piece of furniture can fit underneath the windowsill. Hi, Sam. But you can be really detailed in it, and the CAD system's designed, and it's so quick and easy to use. For us, we've been trained in it, obviously, and it just gives you a full immersive, you know.
Has that already become now that what you can design there, what you can change there, what you can show and be seen there, is that you now go, how did we ever live without that?
Yeah, it prices it now. So all of our what we've got is all of our suppliers' prices within the system. So it price as you build, it changes the prices.
Customer can see, you know, change that roof style, the customer can see the price go up or down depending
Change
on
that bit, take that electric light out, do this, it changes the price for them. But what is also more important than that is it also does all the structural calculations of each design as we're going.
Oh, wow.
So if you need extra steel wind posts or steel supports or goal posts or gable supports or gallows, the system will tell us that at point of design, which then makes sure that everything we build is completely structurally tested before we build it.
And you can't go through and select it if you don't add those parts. It comes up.
And that for me has been an absolute game changer, because when you're dealing with some architects, not all, of course, architects are amazing, but you can sometimes get a picture of an architect's drawing where they've drawn a lovely design based on what you want. But of course, you get planning on that, and of course you get that back, and the builder looks at it and says, "Well, you can't build that. It's impossible."
Yeah.
So for me, that really eliminates that part of the process, which is huge, because the customer knows and can see it on the screen. It actually shows you everything's okay. The customer knows that what they've designed, what we're designing with them, is completely structurally supported.
The other thing is as well is speed. You mentioned about living how we did it before. The fact is, actually, generally speaking, customers are busy.
Yeah.
They don't like the idea of someone comes out, sleazy double glazing salesman comes out, sits in their house for 3 hours. I'll go away. I'll design something for you. I'll come back again. They've got to make small space in there. Oh, we don't like that. Oh, no worries. I'll go away. I'll design something. I'll come back again. People don't want that.
No.
Gone are those days where people are prepared to do that. What they want is someone to come around who's going to talk to them like a person, not be salesy, and explain to them, design it there and then. We don't like that. No problem. I'll change it. And do it there and then. The other thing as well is, obviously you've got the website on the back here, is yes, it's great for people to come down to the showroom. Well, that might not be where the customer's journey is at. It might be there at the very start of the journey, and actually a visit to the showroom wouldn't be appropriate. What's great about our website is it's got all of these designs that we're talking about on the website.
Okay.
So if you're at the very, very early stage, it might be that you just start there.
Look around for to give your imagination the fuel
Exactly.
that it needs.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, I like that. Now, where does I've got down here survey. Has the survey happened yet when you're doing these drawings?
No. So our sort of process in reference to a living space is we do a design with you.
So that's a design in principle.
In principle. So we design it for free. We do all the drawings. You get a copy, and I can send you one so you can show them on the screen. We send it all. It has all the base work, has all the electrics, has everything detailed on there for the quote. Obviously, if the customer does decide to use us and go ahead with that process, then the next process would be the survey.
Okay.
And the survey is done internally by TWC, and it's to make sure that nothing has been sold, promise that we can't do.
Yeah.
Make sure that the designer has checked all the ground, everything that's there.
Yeah.
Is there a boiler flue in the way? Is there drainage in the way? Have we put a base or designed a base on the edge of a drain, which that can't be done? Is there gas pipes in the way, electric pipe? It's all of that. It's to double check everything that the sales guy's done.
Okay.
We do a full survey where once the survey's been done, we then send that back to the customer, and that's obviously then what we're going to build for the customer.
So that could sometimes have an impact on what's
definitely things can be missed. The designers are only human, and this is frustrating.
So you've still not committed even at this stage.
Yeah, no, you've gone
right. In principle,
it's a principle.
Love it.
Yeah.
Survey. If it throws something up, you don't panic. You come back, read any tweaks that might be enforced.
100%. Yeah.
Any tweaks on figures that might be enforced.
Of course.
And then you make a decision.
Of course. And we always say that to customers in reference to when you place the order. Once a survey's done, if there are any changes and they do want to pull out because the changes have affected their affordability or they don't like them, then at that stage it's absolutely fine. Yeah, pull out.
Got you. Fine.
We'll sometimes do things like like a testing or something like that. If we, obviously there's a new build extension or living space, but there's also making an old conservatory larger, replacing existing frames and roof onto that, and sometimes as part of that survey they'll do a testing to check that we can do that.
So you want to make
legally
sure
compliant, health and safety wise, and all that sort of stuff.
Got you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm about to say next phase. I want you to make sure I'm getting it in the right order here. Planning and building regulations. I want to talk about what impact that has here, but it's that after the site survey.
Yeah. So once the site survey's been done, we then, and we'll talk a little bit more about the project management, which is coming up, but we'll then apply for the planning permission. Now, planning permission for customers, for me, is not very clear. There's lots of misinformation out there. If you read a probably get in trouble for this, but luckily only your mum's watching. But local councils don't really help the matter with the way that things are sort of worded. It kind of, because of this permitted development that's been brought in, it kind of makes you believe that if it's under a certain size, if it's that far away from a boundary wall, then you just crack on and build it. And that isn't the case.
Is it not?
No, it's
And
not.
that's some of the information that's out there that people think is true.
Yeah.
And if it's under one story.
Because when a housing estate is built, for example, when they get planning permission to build that housing estate, the local council might put in the terms of that agreement with the house builder that they don't have the right on any of the estate to have permitted development. So they have to do a full plan. And now the customer might not know that. And of course, they're reading off the council website if it's that big. So, but what is great is we have Rob, who's our compliance manager. And what he does is he deals with every single build for the planning permission. So we'll take that from the start of the journey till the end of the journey to get the planning permission sorted.
So not being passed around the houses.
Yeah, he'll liaise with the customer through our groups that we'll explain more in great detail a little bit later, the way we do that. But he also does for us the building regulation application, and he'll take that from the application all the way to get the final certification through.
Yeah.
Councils again, probably get in trouble, but building regulation companies and councils, they are notoriously slow on getting those final sign-offs done. They are, because you've already paid for it, so there's no rush. I think they should do it the other way around, but that's just me saying. Pay for it. We'd get our certificates a lot quicker. The certificates through. But what we've got is an independent guy. He doesn't actually work for TWC. He is independent, but I wanted to have someone independent that managed that whole compliance process to make sure that we are doing everything. So if there is steel calculations needed, we do that. If there's raft base analysis needed, we do that. If there's any types of regulations that we need to adhere to, that we are doing that, and that's what Rob he does for us. He's been with us doing that role now for a few months, and it's greatly improved the communication with the customer and actually the speed we're getting some sign-off. So ones that Rob's dealing with have got the certifications quicker than ones that we weren't dealing with, and it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful because we've always done it to regs, but having someone manage that whole process has been wonderful.
From a client perspective, that's a great peace of mind as well. Like I just made the comment about not being passed around the houses, but you got someone. I mean, you and I were chatting earlier, and it was like things change in that world all the time. If he's on it, he's all over.
That's his job. And you know, for me and Joe, you know, before we had Rob, and I don't want to give him too much of an ego, bless him, but I'd have to be on the building regs website weekly, daily, sometimes to understand what's changing. Is this changed? They've changed the cavity size, and you can't have this, you can't do that. What's great about having someone that is independent and a compliance manager is that he just deals with that all for us. He does training with the teams as well. So
I think the big thing for me is one of the biggest questions we get asked when it comes to this sort of thing is, do I need planning permission?
Yeah.
And it always pained me that depending on who you spoke to in the company would give you a different answer.
Yeah.
This is the size, this is the spec I want to build it to. Do I need planning permission? The fact is that no one knows. No one knows until they go through, because as Andy said, if there's a covenant on that particular estate, well, it might need full planning, even though it should fall within permit development. So what we basically do is the minute we put or plan to put a spade in the ground, we will find out. Because what you don't want, Bob the builder down the road tells you, you know, you're all good, you won't need planning permission. 5 years down the line, you're going to sell your property. You can't sell it because actually it did need something. So what we make sure you do is, whether it's a 3x3 lean-to polycarbonate roof or an 8x6 extension, you get all of the necessary paperwork so that if you ever need to sell that property, you're not then scrambling around trying to get permissions and everything like that. That's the big thing for me.
Yeah. And no, I agree. And I think with the planning, that's really important that you check, you know, every new build that we do goes through the permitted development or planning process, regardless of how big it is.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, I want this piece of paper so that we can go, everything we've done is legal and everything you've done is legal, so we can be happy.
Yep.
And there can be anything that bites you in the bottom. I've seen it firsthand from a customer where they have had something built and they spent a lot of money on something that's been built. They've used I'm not going to name any builders or anything, but they've used a smaller builder, and that was never had planning, and they were actually being asked to modify or knock it down, and it's just
and it's a customer's responsibility.
Yeah, it's just not worth it. It's such an easy process.
Yeah,
everybody should be made to do it. We now do everything through that. We have for a long time. And what we also do, especially on the new builds where there's brickwork, we build everything to regs. So everything we build is to regs. And I won't go bore everybody or you too much about the difference between a conservatory, extension, living space, the glass area. But you don't, on a little conservatory 3x3 polycarb dwarf wall, you don't need to dig a metre footings. You don't need to do it to building regs. We do everything to building regs because I want a compliance manager and our building regs to sign everything off.
Yes.
So that what that does is it gives me peace of mind that everything we're building is fit for purpose. We're not going to have bases that sink. We're not going to have any problems. So often you'll see a conservatory where they put 300 or 400 mil foot in, thought they'd get away with it, and it's sinking. Well, if you'd have just dug down a metre in the first, you wouldn't have done that. Yeah. So for me, planning permission, of course, you need to do it every time. And I know there's this information out there. I know people think they can do this, do that. It's not a long process, and we deal with it for you anyway. So therefore, with us, we deal with it.
And daft question, is that all included in the price?
Yeah. So we price it up, and we don't. Yeah. So the only time that's not a thing where we don't do that is if they've already got planning permission themselves, because some customers will use an architect and they'll do that step before, and then obviously if depending on the architect, hopefully it can be built.
But no surprises. That's the key
exactly.
point here. There's no surprises even at that early stage, let alone what you were talking about.
And we talk quite a lot, don't we, about the fact that when our guys go out and give a design, they'll give you a quotation. They won't give you an estimate.
Yes.
And that's the thing. So, again, some people will say, well, look, I don't want you guys to do the plastering. I just want the brick, But generally speaking, we'll do the plastering, the electrics, whatever it might be. And whatever that design is, we'll give you a quote. And that's what that price will be. Yeah. Whereas an estimate should cost this.
Yeah, an estimate basically means it's going to cost you more than that.
Well, most of the time.
On the back of a fag packet, and actually it's 10 grand more expensive by the time you finish.
Yeah, they might be slightly cheaper than us, but by the time you're paying what you're paying.
Yeah.
And with us, we do everything from the design, the planning, all the way through the electrics, absolutely everything.
Wow.
There's only a couple of things we don't do. We don't do flooring, laminate flooring, although there's laminate flooring in every single one of the conservatories, extension living spaces in the showroom. We don't do the actual finished floor. Simple reason, just being totally honest, we are more expensive than the local floor fitters and the local companies because we end up paying extension builders to fit the floor, and their day rates, just being honest, and the what they're on is more expensive, costs more than a floor fitter, just being honest.
Leave them to do
For the exact same reason we don't do the painting and decorating, because we haven't got painting decorators. We will, we've got people that we recommend for painting and decorating, but you will just get it cheaper elsewhere.
Or do it yourself.
Do it yourself. A lot of customers do it.
Absolutely.
We specialise in what we're good at. And we expect floorers, painters, all themselves to specialise in what they're good at.
The final thing, because we don't do the floor and we don't put the skirting boards on, because obviously you want to get the floor finished underneath the plaster and then the skirting on. So that's the only things we don't
And the reason Andy mentions that is obviously that is, even if it is communicated, sometimes customers, it's not finished. Where's the skirting board?
Yeah.
Well, obviously that would go on after your flooring because you butt right up to it.
Yeah.
And so that is something, that misconceptions maybe of what is expected.
So you don't put the furniture in either.
No.
You don't
fully working kitchen.
Drink in there.
I mean, we can have the first drink.
No
problem.
You guys will be there.
Yeah, a bottle of.
One of the things I love though is that your project management process is award-winning.
Yes, we finally got
Speak to me
recognised
about
for the
this.
National Awards in Lisbon, actually, at Conservatory Outlets Gala. So a few years ago, we did a customer survey, which was a very humbling experience. So we thought we were brilliant, being honest, building conservatory extensions. And we were really happy where we were, I think it's 6 years ago now. And we sent out this customer survey, and I must be honest, I did it a little bit to sort of prove that this part of the business was doing really well. And the response was not shocking, but it was surprising. And mixed is a fair assessment.
And underwhelming.
Yes, can do better. A little bit like my school report. And it was never really a problem. The survey was never really, they were happy customers. They were happy with the final build. They were happy with,
just not delighted customers.
Yeah, and over and over again, looking through the surveys, it was communication. It was, yeah, we got there in the end, but
everything was great,
and it was oh, your guy didn't turn up at this day, and then we were left a few days without communication, and it was
we rang up, we couldn't
communication.
get right through to the right person, so then no one rang me back. It was that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we sat down the table and we tried to come up with a way of making customers have that communication with the company, because the truth is about having an extension done, and we do say this to customers. There is a lot of people out there that will sugarcoat this whole process and make it sound lovely and amazing. The truth is, for 6 to 12 weeks, you're going to have some different tradesmen digging holes in your back garden,
making lots of noise, lots of dust.
Lots of noise, lots of dust. If it's winter, it's going to get muddy, and there isn't anything we can do about it at all. We can obviously board up and do what you can. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be frustrating for 6 to 12 weeks. If you're having a cut through from your house, and so what a lot of customers do will open out the back of their property. Sorry, but no one's ever hoovered in between your brickwork, so it's going to be dusty as hell, and we can put as many sheets and plastic coatings down as you want. But the truth is, it's going to be, and we don't sugarcoat that situation. We try and be as honest as you possibly can be with that. And the idea of when we were sat there trying to do how we're going to communicate everything better, and it was sort of, how do we get the customer to understand all of this? How do we get them to communicate? And we came up with an idea, didn't we, where why don't we try, and it sounds silly, but it really works. Why don't we try at point of sale, putting the customer in a WhatsApp group with us? And what we'll do is, once we've agreed to do a job, we'll have the sales guy or designer to be open up a WhatsApp group. He'll add himself and the customer that night, or that day, or whatever. We'll add Abby, the living space project manager, who she does all the schedules, she does all the running around, she does everything for you. Steve, who is our buildings manager, surveyor. Rob, who is a compliance manager. Now, I love the fact you've got a compliance manager, independent compliance manager, in a group with you at all times.
No escape. No
escape for us. Myself, so you have me in there, and you can message me at any time. And the idea of it is, we add the WhatsApp group with your customer number, and your contract goes in there. You have a copy of it as well, but your contract goes in there. A copy of your survey goes in there. Photographs. And basically, we take that group from point of sale to final sign off. And you're in there the whole time. So, for example, customers, once it goes into planning permission, will want to know what's going on with the council. The truth is, not even the council knows what's going on at the council. So sometimes the customer will get a phone call from the council and say, oh, we're doing this. And the customer will just assume we know. And we don't. Wow. We have no idea, because sometimes they'll ring us, sometimes they ring the customer. Who knows? And it's just a great way of communicating, because it's instant. If you've got something on your mind,
the council's just phoned me.
Perfect. And then everybody that's a senior leader of that project is now aware of it. We also then, once planning permission comes through, rather than email, which can get lost in junk, deleted, we put it straight on WhatsApp. It comes up with 2 blue ticks, as everybody knows. We all know then that everybody is aware that everybody's seen it. And what it then does is, we then put your schedule of works on there. Again, it blue ticks. We know everybody's seen it. You can do a read file on an email, but I sometimes find emails. We are a world nowadays that are constantly on phones and stuff. So whether you like it or not. And what it enables us to do is really manage that project the whole way through. Because what overwhelmingly was on the surveys was, what time do customers get home from work? 5, 6, 7 o'clock. What time do you think my staff go home?
5.
Exactly. So therefore, customer has seen something they don't like. They're trying to ring the office. They can't get through.
And then you stew. Everything gets worse.
Or they get through to someone, but it's not the person that can help.
It'll be an out of hours line, and they've got no idea. And one customer wrote in the survey, and absolutely right, the person I spoke to didn't have a clue what was going on. I can't believe they wouldn't know.
Why would they?
Why would they?
Yeah, no,
It's not their
absolutely.
specialty. So this WhatsApp group is,
And I like this WhatsApp group. And I'm picking up on a phrase that I heard you say earlier, not to me, it's to someone else, but I heard you saying it, is that as a customer, I become part of the
you
project
become
team
part
almost.
of our team. Yeah,
And some people kind of go, "What? I'm paying you to do it." And it's like, yeah, but that being part of the team means you've got a say, you've got the ability to be updated, you know what's going on. I'm thinking, yeah, do you know what? I would like that. I would like to. I'm not going to want to have much say most of the time because you're the experts, but I would
And
like
some people
to.
don't. Some people
Yeah.
don't input anything.
And presumably
Others
some of
put
those
loads.
conversations are not between me as a client and
Yeah.
you. It might be between you and you.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
You know, between two of the different
exactly
people.
that,
Rob suddenly updating someone
Yeah,
else, and
yeah.
you're going, "Oh, cool.
Oh,
I can
yeah,
see that's
they're on
going
it.
on."
It's just a wonderful way of communicating, and it's so instant. I mean, you can message there at any time. You're not always going to get a response back. You know, we had a customer once who messaged us at 3 or 4 in the morning. They
Phone on site.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
This answer definitely didn't make sense. They were garbling.
well, I actually replied to it just to annoy the staff because I was like, well, I can message back. But anyway, but you will get a response, and it is stuff like, and it's the little things that it's managed to do with it. You build a better relationship with the customer. You start to get to know the customer in a little bit of a different way, which helps deal with issues.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be issues, not on every build, but on most builds, there are little issues that you have to get over, you know.
Or
the plasterers
there isn't actually issues, but there's a perception there's an issue.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
another one. I mean, like you say communication, I think the two things are communication and perception.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, the plasterer's not going to be in today because they've had to go off to an emergency appointment, for an example.
The van's broken down.
We ring up and speak to Mrs. Customer or Mr. Customer, and we've told them that, and they haven't spoken to their partner.
Yeah.
And then one partner's ringing up, sort of having a go, where's a plasterer?
Expectations being managed is
it's
critical.
great.
The reason and where it came from, like Andy said, we use WhatsApp groups quite a lot in work because what often would happen, you know, on quite a simple job, fitter would finish a door. They'd ring up, yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith is finished, you know, ring for payment. They'd ring, no answer. Then that person goes home. No one else knows that Mrs. Smith is finished and needs paying.
Yeah.
Whereas you chuck it in a WhatsApp group with everyone in the office, then, well, actually, then, you know, it can be sorted so much quicker. But that's on a job that's gone well.
Yeah.
If Mrs. Smith has a bead missing, a really, really simple thing, again, that could be communicated to the wrong person and it doesn't get them fed back to the person that actually orders the bead. So if they put that on the WhatsApp group, it gets dealt with straight away. And that's where it sort of came from, really. Because as Andy said, often we would have communicated, but you've communicated with the person just as they're running out to work.
Yeah.
They're at work and uncontactable for 10 hours. Well, the partner doesn't know. They're kicking off. Where's this plasterer? Oh, sorry, we did tell your partner.
And yet that's the emotions that they remember
Yeah.
as that kicking
Well,
off,
why
not
didn't
whether
you tell
it's fair
me?
or not. Yeah.
Well, come on, we can't be expected. We can't be expected to ring everyone, and so everyone that needs to be on that group is in it. So you chuck it on there, everyone can see it. Okay, the plasterer, and little things. Then you know the electrician that's on it goes, well, if the plasterer's delayed, that means that I'm going to be the next day, or you know whatever it might be. And it's just that communication is so quick and instant.
And you learn from habit, don't you? When we first started extensions and living spaces, and we were doing the processes were kind of learned from places that we've worked for, and you know experience you build up over time, and now we do this communication, and the way we do it now, it's so night and day compared to anywhere else we've ever worked. And you know, it's so immersive with the customer, and it genuinely makes the customer feel part of the team. It makes decisions easier, personal. You get a bit of personality with the customer.
100%.
One customer wanted to drive a digger at midnight once, and he was told he couldn't. So thank you for that, Jason. But it creates a much greater bond. But it also enables the project managers to really stay on top of the projects, because ultimately, what scares everybody is the TV shows that you see where they've got scaffolding outside their house for 9-12 months and they've not had anything finished. That's not what you'll get with us. You'll get
Or people that come along do half a job, then they go off, you know, because they've taken on too much work. They go and start another base, and they're just left hanging. That's what's people's fear, because, you know, rightly so, because it does happen. You know, we often champion the showroom. The showroom gives customers faith. The showroom gives customers confidence that we're, you know, a bona fide company. We're gonna follow through on what we say, and it does, and that's great. But that's at the beginning. You know, the showroom doesn't really help you when you're halfway through a build on a 6x5 meter extension and something goes wrong. But the WhatsApp group is there. What's going on? This isn't what I thought was happening. Don't worry. This is why it's happening. This is what we're doing about it. Great. People can accept stuff going wrong if they know about it.
Absolutely. Otherwise, 2 and 2 becomes 100.
Communication.
We might be having this great meeting in the office about how we're going to solve this and we're going to stop this and we're Customer doesn't know. And that's what it's all about. Don't worry. We've got a meeting at 2 o'clock. 4 o'clock, we'll give you a call. We'll let you know what's going on. Bang, done. Everyone, you know, and it can be, you know, within the house. We talk about, you know, partners or kids or anyone, you know, that's involved in that can be in the group, and that's what works really well.
And I think it's because it's a very emotive thing that we're adding to our house, isn't it? It's, as you call it, a living space. Is that this is going to be an important room for the family and everything else. It's going to be one that you're excited about. That it's because it's going to be the newest part of your house now.
It's going to, and also it's going to be where you're going to spend the majority of your family time. That's what a lot of these builds are.
Absolutely.
They turn.
Well, it's your first bespoke to you place, because you, even if you bought a new build, it was built to, unless it's a self build, it's built to someone else's design.
You're getting your own design.
Yeah,
and it's probably the second most expensive thing you've ever bought, other than your house.
Yes, some of them definitely. And you know,
or your wedding.
I did mine cheaper than yours, actually. And it was a lot better. I don't know if anyone that went to Joe's wedding, but curly fries. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, Hannah. No, but you've lost my train of thought. No, but it is, and it's being able to the design, being able to build everything that they want. It's exactly right.
Yeah, and then keep everybody involved, and that's where I think it's nice that you are part of this team, because it must be lovely for you guys going on that journey with them, because it's a happy emotional end to that project.
Well, you had a customer, didn't you, the other day that said, "Look, I would like to go and see." You know, we champion our reviews. We talk about our reviews all the time to customers, because that's good, bad, and ugly. You see absolutely everything, you know, but sometimes a customer will say, well, I want to go and see, yes, your showroom is great. I want to go and see a real one that you've just done.
And
literally, Andy, straight away, I know someone that's just like yours, similar sort of property, similar sort of room. Hi, would you be happy, you know, if someone came and had a look? Boom, straight away, because there's that relationship been built. You're not just ringing someone about the blue.
Absolutely.
All right. You know, it's someone you've got a relationship with, that you've had a bit of back and forth. Yeah, of course we can. No problem. Give me a call.
And the WhatsApp groups work great when it's going well. But I actually also think they work better when it doesn't go well.
I'd agree.
Because we've had a job before which didn't go very well. It's an amazing build. We just had an issue with the roof, and it was just an issue that no one could see coming, and it was just unfortunate. We are where we are. It's all been solved now. Customers over the moon. But just having that WhatsApp group with that, the customer could really see we were doing absolutely everything. It was a problem with the supply. We were doing absolutely everything we could. There were, in the space of a week, over 100 messages to and from TWC to the customer.
Wow.
And at the end of the bill, when she finally sat and she said, I will be honest, if it wasn't for this WhatsApp group, I think I would have lost faith in you, because you might have been doing all of that.
The bad stuff.
You might have been might have been doing exactly what you were doing, but I wouldn't have known about it. And so we were just communicating everything, good, bad, and ugly.
I think it's with everything in life for me. I always think, look, for want of a better phrase, mistakes happen.
Yeah.
It's how people deal with it. And, you know, we see some companies are just awful at that. In any
head in the sand.
100%. That's my biggest bugbear. Taking no responsibility. And it is, the communication is key, is that they could be doing the best thing, but if I'm not being told, I'm going to assume the worst.
Well, recently we had Abby, bless her. She drove up to where's Clitheroe? Clitheroe. She drove up, so she's got a child, and Dean, our partner, picked up Alfie, and she drove up at 5 o'clock in the evening to Clitheroe, which is a very long way away. And Ultraframe waited for her to get there to get a part. I think it's 4.5 hours drive. She drove up there 4.5 hours, picked a part up, drove back to give to the fitter in the morning, so we could get a job over the line before Christmas.
Wow!
And the customer would never have known about that, but I made her take a picture of getting up to ultra frame in the evening to show that she'd done it, and it was just a wonderful way of doing it.
That's an interesting one, yeah. So that wasn't to sort of like show we're resolving an issue. It was like showing, hey,
this is what we're doing. This is what we want to try and do, and it just enables you to show customers, because actually 99% of customers are really reasonable as long as you communicate. And I've got a great example of why it works so well. Builder goes there and he puts something slightly in the wrong place, or puts the wrong stone down. He doesn't realise that he's done it wrong, so he doesn't report it. It's just different on the survey, and these stones can be called multiple different things, and he's just picked a stone up, and put it down. Customer notices it, but goes, I think, they reported that because it's wrong. If we didn't have the WhatsApp groups, the customer probably would have been, I'm sure they'll fix it. It'll be fine. Well, if you go a month, the customer's then annoyed. Well, why is that not been fixed? Whereas on the WhatsApp group, you do get quick photo from the customer. Hi, is that right? Oh, yeah, that's right. Or no, that's not right. And you can just deal with them so quickly. So quickly. It just really
also,
helps.
we did talk about various different platforms in which you could do something similar to this, whether it be Teams or something like that. But I guess what's good about it as well is everyone's got WhatsApp. Correct. We all use it, I've got a family WhatsApp group, my uncle in Adelaide on it, and he's putting pictures of what he's up to, and all people have used it. It isn't, blimey, I've got to download this, I've got to put the password in, I'll forget it.
We really looked into, didn't we, creating an app in order to do it and take it in-house on an app. So you download an app.
Don't always need to reinvent the wheel, do you?
It just was a pain. It was just why
we've all got plenty of groups. I got one for the gym. I haven't put a single message in there yet. But no, it makes sense, and congratulations on the recognition that sounds deserved for me.
And also Andy loves it as well, don't you? Because obviously if Andy's on his phone scrolling through Facebook or something, and his wife's like, you get off your phone. He's I'm actually replying to WhatsApp groups. So it's perfect. Yeah.
What goes on tour stays on tour.
That's quite nasty, actually. My wife is very supportive in my social media time.
Nearly at the end of this one, but I want to cover two final bits, and that's, I think, unless you correct me if there's more that you want to say in this episode, but final sign-off and actually warranty. I want to touch on warranty.
Yeah.
But final sign-off, what's that process?
Yeah, so what we've discussed the WhatsApp group, so all the schedules and everything is put in there.
Yes.
Once the job is nearing completion, with snags are done and stuff like that, we'll then have one of our senior management team come out and do the final sign-off to make sure everything's completed to the expectation of the customer and the company.
Yeah.
Their job is to almost troubleshoot and have a look. This isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. And then that gives us a list, a little bit like when you buy a new build house.
Yes.
You're going to have a little bit of a snag list done.
Yeah.
And it's at that point where we recognise some snagging areas that we do. So we do a final sign off by a senior member of the team, just to hand it over and say thank you very much.
And again, we do this all the time, so we know what happens. But for a customer's point of view, just being honest with you, if I took you to a living space, current one that's being fitted now, with the tape still on the frames and the plaster still wet and stuff like that, you'd probably look at it and be fairly underwhelmed.
Yeah.
But it's until you get like the clean and seal or the little snag list and stuff like that, that's actually when it starts to take shape. So again, as Andy said about, over promise and under deliver, we don't want to do that. We want to under promise and over deliver. So it's about explaining to the customer, it is going to take this long. Look, don't freak out. It isn't finished until the window boards are on and all the little bits and pieces that actually complete the job. Well, at that point, this isn't done. This isn't done. Don't worry, that will get done. And again, if a customer is freaking out, which is fair enough, they can chuck it on the WhatsApp group. What's going on? Come on, this is.
I've never been through that.
I've never been through this. Yeah, this looks a mess. And it does look a mess, because things aren't finished. But once it's finished, you get that clean and seal, the snag list is done. All of a sudden, wow, I get it now.
It is. If you ever bought a new property,
our last place that was a new build,
when you buy a new property and you can sometimes go in, look at it before and as it's building.
Yes,
and we do that thing where we did too. You do that thing where you go, I'm so excited, I'm going to go and have a look. And you go into the rooms, and do you know when? I don't know if you ever saw one where it had just been plastered and not skimmed. So it had the plasterboard on and not been properly plastered.
Yeah.
The whole room looks awful. It looks tiny.
It does, doesn't it?
It's so small.
Yeah.
And then as soon as it's decorated and it's clean and sealed, it looks amazing.
You can imagine yourself in it.
And it is. What I try and I hammer this home with all my designers is just be straight with people about that process, because it will look smaller than you think it will. It's got to go through that bit. And we do a whole clean and seal at the end.
It's like the electrics, isn't it? You look up these now, these lovely LEDs with a little thing, up until a week before that, you might have the wires hanging out and it looks dreadful.
Yeah.
But don't panic. We'll get there and we'll get it right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that makes sense. So final sign off by the experts and by the client, presumably.
Yeah, so the client will, they tend to let us do the final sign off just due to the WhatsApp communication, because all through the build, we're getting little snags from them anyway. So it's sort of like a snag list at the end. It's more about us trying to identify areas that haven't been resolved.
Fine.
What we notice.
And presumably, if they spot something afterwards, they're able to report something.
Yeah, so
spotted.
Brings into the warranty. So we give a fantastic warranty. We give a 20-year guarantee on all the roofs and frames for the build. All the building work is given a full 10-year guarantee.
Wow.
So that's any building work. It's only a 10-year. We have pushed for 20 years, but insurance companies don't want to. On a new build estate, for example, if you've got an extension that's guaranteed for 20 years for the base works, you've then got brickwork next to it that's only guaranteed for 10.
Yeah.
It causes issues with those insurances. So you get a 10-year on the building work and a 20-year on the frames and roof. And then there are other guarantees which are normal. For example, like your electric works come with 2-year guarantee for the lights, plug sockets and stuff like that. So it's completely covered. And what's great is we do keep the WhatsApp groups open until point of final sign off. If you do have an issue, then you come through to the customer services. And what will sometimes happen is we'll reopen a WhatsApp group to take some photos and stuff. So you've still got the ability to dig back into that and also make sure.
It takes 2 seconds to start.
Exactly.
And again, I think something you mentioned at the beginning, with this whole journey, it can be quite daunting, and people often speak to customers, oh, well, if I pay, will you come back and solve it? And almost some customers feel like, they might need to keep some money back. Otherwise, we're not going to come back. You don't need to worry about that because you've got our 20-year guarantee. If something happens before, during, or after you paid, it doesn't matter. It's up to us to resolve it. If we can't resolve it, we'll replace it. That's the fact.
If it was going to be perfect, you wouldn't give a guarantee.
Exactly.
And that's why every product comes with a guarantee, because there is, of course, a chance that something might happen. You might get a faulty window handle. You might get
the door might drop, whatever. Things go wrong, but that's why it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
And our manufacturer, Conservatory Outlet, gives us a 20-year guarantee on all of our products because they've tested it and they've actually over-engineered it so that it outlasts that guarantee. Do things go wrong? Yes. Are we going to fix it? Yes. Simple as that.
Yeah, there's almost a song there. I was listening.
And what's great for customers, there is a what happens next file which goes into the WhatsApp group. So when you place the order, that comes on into there, and that gives you a little bit of a detailed breakdown of what is going to happen next.
Oh, wow.
What happens next, when the survey, what we're doing, and it just gives you a gentle breakdown of what's going. So, at all points, it's trying to just keep the customer as informed as possible. And I must say, because we've probably skipped past the builders, but the guys we use at TWC, we've always used the same builders, and we don't do. If they start a project, they're on that project till it finishes. So the builders will start the base. There isn't another base they need to go off to and do. They will finish that base. Now, if weather or something happens that goes wrong and we have to delay the base for a few days, they don't go and start another job.
There's now 2 weeks worth, so they're not available now.
No, and what we do is we go, no, you stay on that job. We'll move other jobs. We're with this customer. So we'll move other jobs instead of moving your job. That gives complete reassurance of the timescales. So we give a 6 to 12 week timescale to start to finish, which is really quick for this industry.
I mean, it's just wonderful to hear that there is that peace of mind for us all if we're contemplating doing something like this. So the process, I understand it, twchome.co.uk, the website.
Yeah.
Jump on the whole load of the designs there for us to have a look and get some ideas. We got the showroom to come and have a look at some of them here, an example, but plus also speak to you guys. You've got the ability with the CAD drawings and everything else to sort of bring it to life. price it all up for us, all of that stuff, that's taken care of. We get not just an estimate, we get a quote for based on what we're looking at. This is what we're going to be able to do. You've got the expertise in-house that's going to get it through any kind of planning regs, building regs, all of that sort of stuff, the site survey to make sure there's nothing that we weren't aware of that's going to impact it later. And then there's the communication is critical on the WhatsApp group. Everybody's part of it. Everyone knows what's happening next. Everybody's able to ask questions, update, everything else like that. And so it doesn't need to be this overwhelm. It's a lot more accessible than myself included probably thought.
It says it's when we go back and look at how much we've spoken about it's a lot, but we simplify the process and we deal
that's
with
what hopefully that little conclusion.
And just one thing as well, actually, it's a really good summary there of what's been done, is if you're not sure whether it can be done or not, if we get out there and it can't be done,
we'll say
it can't be done.
We'll show
you know, access issues, whatever. Really sorry, what you want can't be done. There's no point us pretending it can and starting it because it's just
for
no
you
good for
guys,
anyone.
let alone the client.
So actually, from that, you know, could I, can't I need a bit more space. Is it practical? Is it not? Ask the question. If you don't ask, you don't know.
I love it. So hopefully that answers any questions you might not have even known you had. And it's brought it to life. It doesn't need to be confusing. It doesn't need to be scary. Come down and chat to these guys at TWC. I'm speaking from the prime example is that I am an but in me it was like this big project. Oh no, forget it. I can't. It isn't. These guys manage it. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that one. So that was episode 6. Keep your eyes peeled because we'll be back in about a month's time with episode 7. But for now, thank you very much.
Lovely. Cheers.